Rhonda and Lace, because it is time to ask Lace anything.
All right, shameless plug for the website before I jump into this. I love the website. If you want to know more about me, that's where you have to go. I will give short little quips on Facebook, but I will write long, involved engagement on the website because I feel so much more comfortable there. So come hang out where I'm actually in jeans and a t-shirt and really engaging on these important subjects and learning so much from my fellow walkers. So Lace, are you ready for some questions? Oh, you're on mute.
I was trying to be considerate. Can I say one thing just to piggyback off of what you just said about the website?
Yes.
When the website was first formed at the top of this year, you better believe everyone in leadership team and particularly Laura knew just how trepidatious I was. I had been talking about wanting to move away from Facebook to the website, and the conceptualization of the cafe was in my head, different dining rooms, and then it happened and I froze. Change is hard, y'all. Change is hard. I get it. I get it. But we are asking something of you that is relatively minor and not as risky as you might first feel. I thought that I was going to break the internet the first time I pressed the wrong button on the website. Guess what? The internet's still here and it's fine. But I get to know people in deeper and deeper ways. And I would be remiss if I did not say overtly, one of the things we say, make the covert overt. I would be remiss if I didn't say that, yes, after what happened in February, the takeout window, the Facebook page, began to feel a lot less safe for me and a lot less safe for other people. We want to make it very clear that we cannot guarantee absolute safety. We're talking about provocative things. We're asking, if not better than other spaces, certainly differently than other spaces. You are going to be flexing new muscles. And in the website, as opposed to the takeout page, where we insist, lovingly insist, that you use your real mug and your real name, it could feel that it's a bit too risky. But here's the thing. All of you guys know that I love quadrants. So let's do quadrants for a minute. You've got low risk, low reward down here. Nobody wants that, right? You've got low reward, high risk. Nobody wants that. You've got low risk, high reward. That's where people like to be. They like to not have to put too much in, but they want a payoff. And in a lot of places, that's exactly what you get. You get your cookies, you get your Nutter Butters, but we want you up here, top right quadrant, high risk, high reward. You are going to be flexing muscles and putting emotional and relational eggs, not just in my basket, not just in my leadership team's basket, but in the basket of your fellow community members, and trusting that they will hold you well in ways that you may not have experienced in other online spaces. But the only way you're going to know if I'm telling the truth about the huge assertion that I just made is if you show up, if you come down into the Coliseum and you mix it up. In the same faith tradition that I referenced earlier, there's a song, "Oh, taste and see." You don't know. You don't know how much risk you actually have to expend or how much reward you're actually going to receive, how many muscles you're going to flex until you actually do the work. So I invite you in, just like I said last night, I exhort, and I challenge you to do the work that you may have started last year and then abandoned, to do the work that you may only be picking up this mantle, to do the work in different ways that will turbocharge your praxis in other spaces. because we do not, we in no way do we feel that Lace on Race is the only game in town when it comes to racial justice. We may be the only game in town when it comes to our particular sort of proprietary brand of applied relational ethics, but we're not the only racial or social justice space in town. But what I can say with a lot of confidence is that if you do what we prescribe, you will be more effective in other social and racial justice spaces. You will learn emotional regulation. You'll learn how to manage your slosh. You'll learn how to speak effectively with love and savvy. You'll learn how to cherish. And that will serve you well in other racial justice spaces, in your workplaces, in your congregations, in your families, as you're going down to get the mail from the mailbox. Everything that we attempt to teach you here is generalizable. So we invite you in. And I promise, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I'm probably gonna go get dinner after this, but I'm not going anywhere. Neither is my staff, neither is my leadership team. We are here for you. We can't do it for you, but we will do it with you. Thanks, Rhonda.
Oh, awesome. You actually answered one of the questions.
I did?
You did.
Give me the question anyway. Maybe I have something more to say.
Which is, what is your favorite thing about the refreshed website?
Oh,
I think that was a beautiful answer to that. And you may give more to that if you'd like to.
yes, it is less intimidating. And I know that for some of us who are a little bit older, who may not be exactly the most early of adopters and just the most plain language possible, I think that you're going to find this a lot easier. I think that also with this new website, with the addition of the Lace on Race Center for Racial Equity, that what we have been saying for almost 4 years now, which is insane, right? Wow, in January, it'll be 4 years. But what we've been saying for a while, that the method and the ethos that we have crafted and implemented and executed in Lace on Race is both scalable and replicable. And you can see that a lot better on the website, in the groups, in the dining rooms that we are going to revitalize, and particularly in the website. And thank you, Melissa, for that amazing work. In the Lace on Race Center for Racial Equity, we do believe that we have something to say outside.
And that leads to the next question. Where do you envision the community will be, or what our space will look like a year from now?
That's a great question. Here's what I hope. I hope that we become not just the go-to for reading and watching my mug flap my jaws, but that people actually really do think of this as a learning lab, as a rehearsal space, and then they take it outside. That we become the go-tos for farm teams, where people come to us to learn how to lead with a racial justice praxis front and center. We will learn how to mentor and to be mentored. So everything that we've been talking about for the last 4 years, I mean, if I were just being more of it, give me more. I mean, a lot of times people like kind of go, well, you did the chocolate chip cookies. It's like, yeah, I love the Chips Ahoy. It's my jam. But there are different kinds of Chips Ahoys these days. I actually saw dulce de leche Chips Ahoy, and I am here for it. So you've got the original, you've got the chunky, you've got the chewy, you've got the dulce de leche. What we want is to become really good at multiple entry points. You want to talk to us about organizational and institutional, we are here. We are not your diversity and inclusion usual suspect. We're going to be brave and invite institutions and organizations to be brave, to not just focus on the optics, but to focus on the actual. And the only way that organizations and institutions can do that is if the people who comprise them do it too. So in 1 year, we want to be able to build on what we've done. And Rhonda, I have to be honest with you. It's been a hard 7 months since what happened in February. So this time a year from now, I'd like us to be at where we were in February. Here's the thing, because I'm going to make the covert overt. I mean, this is what Ask Me Anything is for. We had not lost eyeballs. In fact, we've gained eyeballs since the debacle of February with Holly and Annie and Chris. What we did lose was operating revenue. There's a lot of reasons for this. Number one is I'm going to go from the most benign to what could be considered the most benevolent. The most benign, and it's not at all benign, is that the fatigue that a lot of dominant culture people did indeed feel once they were sort of saturated with the Breonna Taylor and the George Floyd. And once those things got more or less resolved in their minds, there wasn't an impetus to do more. The question that needed to be asked during the Black Spring that happened 12 months ago, last summer, was not, are people getting galvanized and activated? It's, are people getting it in? And are people learning to do durable praxis? And as we have seen over the last 12 months, the answer is a decided no. I am not happy about that. And I don't think that that is where it should be. So that's the most benign. Everybody got a little tired of it. Let's take it a step deeper. People did not either anticipate or count the cost, or did, or they really thought they did, but they didn't think that they would have to make this not just part of their lives, but their lives. They thought that they could graft it on, you know, and then when it was done, then you're done. You only have to do it once. You know, if I donate $25 to some organization, then I'm done for the rest of my life. And so if anyone asks me, well, what have you done for racial justice? You can point to, well, on August 22nd, 2020, no. One of the things that I feel when it comes to civil rights and racial justice in general, I have to go back. Remember when I was talking about, Rhonda, do you remember when I was talking about Martin Luther King in 1963?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is one of the more controversial things that I say, but I will say it over and over again. I think that the way that racial justice and social justice was, put this in quotation marks, sold to dominant culture, to white people, starting from Brown v. Board, really, if you really want to start the clock, 1954, all the way up to the present day, has been erroneous. Basically, white people have been told, you can have your kumbaya moment and your love and light moment, and it's going to cost you nothing. And the minute it costs them anything, and by the way, speaking of costing, September 1st, look for it, Rhonda, the dimes challenge and the envelope challenge. We need to learn something that we have forgotten as a group, how to give reflexively, how to give without payoff. But people thought that it would be easy. And then, you know, it wasn't as easy as you thought. And so between 1963 and 1973, dollars for nonprofits went up a pace, but very few of them in the first place had ever gone to Black and brown hands with Black and brown leadership. That's still true in 2021. Do you feel me, Rhonda?
Absolutely.
But also people got fatigue. People started talking about environmentalism instead of social justice. They started talking about being vegan instead of being anti-racist. What they have absolutely forgotten about is the same sort of mission drift with those concepts. Environmentalism was part of a whole ecology, an ecology of justice, That included racial justice. That included environmental justice. People don't think about that now. They just think about whether or not, which plastic bottle is safe to recycle, right? But there was a principle at the core, and it's the same thing with veganism. If you care more about the aphid on your tomato than you care about the person who picked the tomato, that suffers from mission drift. And that, I will submit to you, Rhonda, is not particularly an ethical act. So by the time we get to 2021, a lot of terms and concepts and precepts have been morphed by the people who benefit most from their distortion. Am I making sense to you, Rhonda?
Absolutely. So the idea is to bring it back to the question, what you envision or what you hope or what you want a year from now is to even get back to the place that we were in February, that we were making some level of forward progress, some hope that maybe it was really taking hold. It was really taking root, that it was
durable
really
and sustainable.
Durable and sustainable.
Yes, yes. But I'll go you one better, Rhonda. By the way, I know and love Rhonda, so Lacey, you might want to tilt your screen down a bit so my chin isn't cut off. My chin was being cut off? How am I doing now? Someone give me a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay. You need to see my chin. One of the things, I'll go you one better, Rhonda. I want to go back to 1954. I want to go back to 10 days after my birthday in 1963. Rhonda, why are we having this conversation 58 years later? We keep kicking the can down the road, down the road, down the road. And what I want in a year, 5 years, 10 years, is for people to stop kicking the can. A lot of this stuff should have been settled. But if you look at metrics, Rhonda, they haven't been. In some ways, things are worse, and forget police shootings, but I'm talking about educational disparities. I'm talking about housing. I'm talking about medical disparities. Oh my gosh, particularly during this time of COVID, are worse for Black and Brown people in 2021 than they were in 1954. Do you feel me?
Absolutely.
So yeah, what I want in a year is that people learn how to make the covert overt, how they learn to speak with kind, candor, and savvy in their workplaces and in their other circles of influence. Even if I wanted to, if I went and had coffee, 15-minute coffees, no breaks, except I will sneak a burrito, Rhonda, because you know me. I can't reach all of you. And that means that some of you are going to have to get it in so that you can live it out in my space. That is why I say over and over, what we teach here is not a state secret. I want you to know everything I know. I want us to be able to be generous, not just in funds, but certainly in funding. And in a year, yeah, I'd like to get to pre-retirement level. I need people to get over the fact that because of the good work that we have done, that I no longer apologize for, we did receive an endowment. But that endowment was not for day-to-day operations. It was to fund scholarships and fellowships and entrepreneurships and conferences. But if we wind up cannibalizing this because the increased number of eyeballs, but the half of the revenue continues, yeah, we will be gone. So I do want to talk, and I'm going to hit on money. And every single time I hit on money, I lose anywhere from 5 to 100 people, Rhonda. But here's the thing. Oh, sorry, there's more questions. I got to stop. But this is recorded, thank God. And so is it recorded? Yes, it's recorded. And so all the things that we talked about, everything is fodder, right? So we're going to talk about this more in an essay. Give me another one, Rhonda, and I promise.
We'll give you another one.
Let's see how succinct I can be.
I do. And I love that answer. It covered several questions, but I'm going to give you a chance because I appreciate that someone tossed this question in there because I think it was a vulnerable thing to do. is to actually ask, what is kind candor? And this is someone that answered, that engaged with us this week. It was somebody that submitted, it went to our website and went on the scavenger hunt. So if you'd be willing to answer that, that would be awesome.
I'm going to see if I can do it in 3 minutes. First of all, I'm going to take 30 seconds to basically encourage the person who asked the question to go back and read a lot of the pinned posts. It's in there. I'm going to give you the nickel tour, the Cliff Notes version, and also I will expand on it. This is done, everything is fodder. I can expand on it later, but I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes. Kind candor is saying, it's getting to the point where you can say anything, but not in any old way. Let's look at these two things that people usually seem to think are in dissonance or in tension, and not intentions as in I intend to do the treadmill later on tonight. Sorry. They live in tension. They live in dissonance and seeming contradiction with each other. How can you be kind and candid at the same time? And so people feel that they can only be one or another. Am I right, Rhonda? If I'm kind, then I don't say the hard things. If I'm candid, I don't care about the humanity of the other. So what I am asking, what I'm insisting upon, Rhonda, is that we marry these two. We marry these two. That I do. Can I pick on you for a minute, Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm talking to you, Rhonda, and I see something that is not in alignment with the woman you tell me you want to be. And if you're at this website, Rhonda, I'm making some assumptions of you. I am assuming that you do care about racial justice. I am assuming that you want to make it, if not your entire life, you're still kind of thinking about it, definitely a part of your life. But if you are doing things out of alignment with that, and you've told me by being here that this is something you value, I have a responsibility to you as your friend and your fellow walker to let you know that. Not from a top-down position, not from a wagging of the finger, but with humility and eye to eye. Rhonda, I know what you told me, and I believe you when you told me. How can I get you back to baseline? This is what I see, unvarnished. But insofar as it's important as what I say to you, Rhonda, it's important the spirit in which I tell you. It should not be done in a gotcha spirit. And you see that a lot in social justice spaces. Am I right? It's like people are looking for ways to invalidate the walk and the ethos of the person who's doing the talking. I mean, I get that all the time. But if I'm looking at you and I see you and I'm seeing you eye to eye, there should not just be love in my eyes, Rhonda. There should be a little bit of pain because I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you. I want to go deeper with you. And I want to be able to take the risk of loving Hesed, because if we're going to talk about kind candor, we got to talk about Hesed. Can we talk about Hesed for a minute? Hesed is muscular. It's no nonsense. This niceness that people talk about, that's not kindness. Those Hallmark cards are not kindness. They're not muscular. They're not durable. What you need to hear from me, Rhonda, when I'm talking about kind candor and Hesed, is that I will tell you the truth, but I will not leave you or abandon you. I can't do the work for you. The words I say, Rhonda, may throw you into a crucible that only you are going to be able to work out. But I will be right there. That is what friendship looks like. That is what Hesed looks like. My kindness comes into, I never forget your humanity. Because these gotcha moments, these things that are all about humiliation and embarrassment and top down, somewhere humanity is lost. There is something that we talk about in the 5 winning strategies, and I cannot wait to go deeper to the 5-minute strategy. I know I'm over 3 minutes, but it's your fault. This is a big
It's
topic.
all my fault. I'm asking
All
you
your
questions.
fault.
I will take that. I will take that blame. I will take that blame and I will throw out a fun question.
Ask me a fun question.
How much do you like oranges?
Oh my gosh. A lot. I'm wearing one. Ouch. I'm wearing
Oh,
one
no.
of my favorite orange shirts right now. I love orange sherbet. I love orangeade. I love orange pound cake, especially when you put the zest in it. Oh, yeah. And I love all the colors of orange. For a long time, I thought I couldn't wear orange. And we're going to do this fun thing, Rhonda, where I'm talking about nails and face and hair. And I'm going to include clothes. But one of the things that I'm going to say was I thought for a long time I couldn't get away with orange. I couldn't get away with it. Orange is not a color for me. So and the last year or two, everything I buy is orange. It's peach, it's apricot, it's rust, it's orange, it's burnt umber. You can wear it all. And now let's pivot that to race, because I know it's a fun question, but I got to tell you why I think that I mean, you know me, there's always a lesson. The work of racial justice, when we use the orange tree as our talisman and as an illustration, oranges don't always start off orange. Bruised oranges matter too. Slightly greenish oranges matter too. So I like it all. I like the entire spectrum. And I love the hands. I love the hands of those who cultivate. So in terms of oranges, yes, I love it. I love the story of the orange tree at my own house, where for years it was just sticks. I never cut it down, but I would walk down the western side of the property and I would just sigh. Rhonda, I just sigh. It's like, oh, it's another failure. My marriage failed. I don't have a job I like. And this tree, this tree, this tree. And then, and there is an essay that talks
It's a great
about
one.
this. One day when Melissa and Claire, not the Claire that works with us now, but Claire Ramsey, and I were talking about shutting this thing down. This was in 2019, November of 2019. And it's like, how do we wind this thing down? And so I went outside to watch the sunset from the porch. And one of the things I always tried to do was not to look at that tree, Rhonda, because it was depressing as hell. But my eyes cut over and it's like, what am I seeing? I saw green leaves. I saw the beginnings, baby beginnings of oranges. I saw gestation and I saw growth. And I knew that that was a sign. Rhonda, 7 months later, we were on list for being some of the best you can get on the internet in terms of racial justice. We were on lists in terms of being the 10 best. We're even 9 months before we were considering closing our doors. And if you do not think that I do not think about that story every day since Holly, you would be wrong. I think about it every day, every day. That is why I love oranges, because they are resilient and relentless. Just like I ask of myself, and I ask of you, Rhonda, and I ask of everybody else. How's that for an answer?
That's a fantastic answer.
Thank you.
Love that. If you could pick one thing, what was the best part of your birthday celebration?
I refuse to answer that question because it's not over. You haven't asked me that yet. Even before my birthday, when I started getting packages from the miscreants and the delinquents of my leadership team, I knew this thing was going to be lit. In my view, my birthday started on July 1st when I was able to be in North Carolina and hold the hands of Catherine DeBose and have Catherine DeBose hold my face in her hands. Oh, this whole summer. I think the best part of it is being able to talk about, in all seriousness, Rhonda, being able to talk about second chances and second acts and even third acts. Y'all need to remember that this time, not 10 years ago, not even 6 years ago, I was a clerk for the county. I was doing other things outside the county of San Diego, to be sure. I served on some boards. I've got a little bit under the hood here, right? But for the most part, that's what I was doing. And I thought that that is what I would be a tent maker for the rest of my life. Maybe I would be able to influence a small amount of people in a timid kind of way. I'm not timid anymore, Rhonda. And I no longer ask permission to live out my values. And I no longer leave my values at the door when I start my work day. It's front and center. I used to leave pieces of myself, and I don't know if you've ever done this or felt you've done this, Rhonda, but have you ever felt that like kind of you leave pieces of yourself in the glove compartment of your car before you go into your work? Because you know that there are pieces, parts that are simply that will either get trampled or will not be honored or affirmed.
Absolutely.
Do you know how it feels? How at 58 years old, when a lot of people are looking at and I retired from the county, but this is not retirement. Laura makes sure of that. And yes, she heard me. But to be able to live the life, not I want, you know, and my dreams were never, I want a Lamborghini and 6 bedrooms in La Jolla. My dream was that what was in here, that I had been fomenting for 30 years, Rhonda, would be able to come out. I'm not responsible for what else anybody else does with what's in here, but I did feel a strong responsibility to be able to speak truth to power, to be Mordecai at the gate. And now it's a privilege to be able to navigate being a leader, right? But also being Mordecai, speaking truth to power. This is a privilege. Every day is rebirth. So don't ask me about my birthday. Every day is a birthday.
I love that. All right. I'd like to think this is going to be a straightforward question, but I'm going to say it's not.
Have you met me, Rhonda? Have you met me?
Just going to say. Which book have you referred to the most over your life? And which part of it do you refer to the most?
Can I give you 2? Can I cheat just a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you. The first one, and I hope this does not alienate too many people, the first one is the Bible, and a very specific book of the Bible, 2 actually. In Old Testament, the book of Esther. You know how I was just talking about Mordecai at the gate? He was the uncle of Esther who was inside the gates. Esther didn't know it, but she was meant to be a sleeper cell. And Mordecai said, it's go time. And she said, little old me, I almost never see the king. And he said something, oh my gosh, I get sweaty when I think about it. And it's one of the questions that I ask myself at the end of the day. God can do it without you, Esther. Don't worry. If God wants to save, he's going to save. He'll do it without you. That does not absolve you of your responsibility. Do you feel me?
Yes, I do. I love that book myself.
There it is. There it is. Exhortation, encouragement, and challenge all in the same. And if you really want to look at it, one of the things that we talk about, Rhonda, a lot is capacity, agency, and volition. And do you see how Mordecai challenged her with all 3 of those elements in his response to her very tepid trying to walk it back? You have the capacity, you have the agency. Do you have the volition? Boom, boom. Going into New Testament, let's look at Acts. Let's look at Acts. and how people try to say that, well, Acts really didn't work. I mean, it was a good try, but Acts didn't work. Well, I feel that Acts is kind of like, socialism and Christianity and dare I say, the perfect cut crease on the eye. No one knows if it's fully efficacious because no one's tried it successfully. I have yet to see a really perfect cut crease. I have yet to see a group of people truly living in community without the world coming in and distorting that vision. What would it look like if we, the beloved community, stop listening to what the world says we can't do? To the extent that Acts failed because it listened to people basically saying it would fail, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. But did it actually fail? But here I am being, when I look at New Testament, when I look at Acts, I am both Mordecai and Esther talking to myself. It may not have worked for them. It may not have worked for other communities, but that doesn't mean you don't try. I have to try. And I know it's possible because I deal with you miscreants on the leadership team every darn day. And I know it's possible to do incredible work with incredible love and incredible humor and faithfulness and risk and trust. I know it's possible. And if it's possible for we 13 misfits, Rhonda, why isn't it possible for all 10,000 of us?
Absolutely.
Okay, and now the Bible, well, that was one. The second one is Man's Search for Meaning by Martin Buber, which is the basis for me to start thinking about ethics and what we owe to each other. So if I talk about Buber, I also have to talk about Scanlon, and I also now have to talk about attachment theory, and I also now have to talk about how we live out our relational lives together. But that's like 7 books. So I think I've answered the question.
You absolutely have. And somebody would like to know if you could tell us a little bit more about your grandmother, if you're willing.
Lacey May? Oh, the woman I was named after? Well, she was profane in a loving way. And the only time I ever saw her not have snuff under her lip, because she did, right here, the entire time, it was possible for her to dip snuff and eat vanilla ice cream at the same time. I have seen it. That woman was magic to me. That woman would go out and feed her family, picking up fish with nets, sometimes with her hands in the Ouachita River in nothing but hip waders. And that's after spending 12 to 16 hours sometimes in white people's houses cleaning. We talk a lot about servanthood, Rhonda, and there's a difference between enforced or oppressive servitude and the servitude that we talk about in the best sense. And when it comes to Black and brown people who have been oppressed by having to be literally servants, how we have a gracious sense of service despite that oppression is huge. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Well, Lacey May knew how to do it. Lacey May knew how to work 16 hours and then come home with fish and clean and dress them herself, and then kind of go, yeah, I went on ahead and I got you some barrettes, Jan. Thought about me. When I was between 8th and 9th grade, maybe it was 9th and 10th grade, I was as large as I was round. I've never been small, Rhonda, never. Even when I was a performer, I was always on the big side. But I went to Arkansas that year because we always went during the summer, and I was spherical, literally. I mean, literally, you gave me a little push, I'd just go down the hill. And this woman modeled Hesed love to me. I didn't know that it was Hesed. I didn't know how to say it. I was 13, so I was 14 or 15 at the time. But one of the things that she said to my mother was, Bob, for Bobby, how the hell that girl get like that? And then for the next 2.5 months, she basically put me on a very strict diet and made me exercise every day. And I went back to San Diego, somewhere between a 14 and a 16, still not small, but able to not be too fat for Lane Bryant, which I was. That's Hesed love. She did not shame me, but she said that some things had to change. She did not make me feel less than, but she basically said, because we had some talks, we'd be out on the back porch where the ringer washer was, a ringer washer. And she would ask me things about junior high, and junior high was so hard for me, so hard. I cried every day. I had no friends until the tail end of 9th grade. And she would ask me, who do you want to be? And then I would say, you know, I'd like people to like me. Well, goddamn, Jan, what are you going to do? That was not said with hatred or with shame-inducing or with contempt or with disgust. It is basically the basis of the same question that I asked you, Rhonda, or anyone else. Who is the woman you say you want to be, and are you willing to take the steps to get there? I got that from Lacey May. And I also, by the way, got to wear boots for the first time in 10th grade because I was able to wear boots that fit my calves because I lost some weight. She had a vision of me that was nothing more or less than the vision I said I wanted for myself. And she aligned with me with that vision. And she would not let me waver from that vision. That servanthood. After she scrubbed the houses of the nice ladies of Camden, Arkansas, after she fished, and after she tended to her amazing garden with yellow watermelon, which is sweeter than red watermelon. Why is red the standard? Yellow should be the standard. And then she was there, able to be there with me fully, and tell me things that I didn't really want to hear. And then worked with me to get me there. I remember that as one of the hardest summers of my life. There was not a day that I wasn't achy and sore and crying. But I went home a size 14 and I made friends. And some of that, I had to think about it because the same people that didn't like me when I was a sphere now liked me as a size 14 with hips and boobs. So you had to talk about that. Didn't never have it. But the fact of the matter is that she got me to that place. And she couldn't do it for me, Rhonda, but she did it with me. And she did not waver. And she never abandoned or left me. But she never was nice. If anything I learned from Lacey May Broadnax, I will not use the word she would use. Fork, nice. Fork, nice. If I love you, I need to be willing to risk relationship with you, Rhonda, and to tell you the hard things. Which is why when it's hard, my porch is crowded. I have Lacey May on one side, I have Catherine DeBose on the other. I have my mother over there sitting on that thing that kind of thinks it's a glider, but it kind of goes to the side. The point is that my porch is crowded with women who gave me no quarter. Thank you.
Oh, I feel like she's sitting here next to me right now. Thank you.
You don't want her totally sitting next to you because basically if where there is snuff, there is also a spittoon, and she had about 98% accuracy. Worry about the 2%. That's all I'm saying.
Good to know. Good to know. All right. I've just one more question. And while I think you've answered it in lots of different ways, one more question for tonight. I'm sure there's a million more.
I cannot wait for the next Ask Me Anything, because you can. Ask me anything.
But tonight's last question is, what gives you hope?
Oh, wow. How long do I get for that?
I don't know how long Laura has this Facebook Live for.
What gives me hope is the fact that some things that were in the air 58 years ago, 10 days before the March on Washington, are somewhat settled now. And even people who consider themselves conservative and who we give side eye to as progressives are actually in different places than they were. The odds are low that I'm going to be completely shot in the street if I blow a tire or if my registration is expired. It's lower, but it's not zero. The odds are higher that if I apply to a job, that I'm not going to go in the circular file right away, that I'll get the phone interview. I might even get the Zoom interview, but when I am there in all my toasted pecan glory in the interview room, the odds are not that much higher than they were in 1963. What gives me hope is that people are beginning to tell the truth. I mean, do you remember when I did the first installment of Critical Race Theory and I need to do the second installment? Do you remember that?
I do. I've read it twice.
One of the things that we talked about, I touched on, but we need to go a little deeper in, is that critical race theory is just another way of telling the truth, of saying we are going to give a fuller account, a more truthful and a more nuanced and a more comprehensive account of everything that went down. And there is a cohort of people who have a big fat problem with that, but there is another cohort of people who say, give it to us straight. We have the potential to be both the Catherine DeBoses, Hesed without hesitation. I like that. Hesed heart without hesitation. That's Catherine DeBose in a nutshell, along with Lacey May Broadnax. I'm so glad you brought my grandmother up. Take no prisoners kind of love. We can marry the two. And now, do you see what I mean by kind candor? Catherine DeBose plus Lacey May. My hope is that both of those virtues and attributes that these women exemplify become the way that we live. That there is Catherine on this shoulder, Lacey May on this shoulder, it's lit. That's the hope. And even if I am the only one in the stands, I look around, I'm not the only one. I may be the only one in my section, but I'm not the only one. My hope for is that people in the cohort that's listening to me now, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, will no longer feel the need to displace responsibility on the next generation and kick the can to them. That they're not going to rest on their laurels, because it doesn't matter whether or not you march with Martin Luther King in 1960, because, and by the way, most of you didn't, just like most of you didn't go to Woodstock, okay? If Woodstock really had as many people as swore went to Woodstock, there would be a huge crater in Woodstock, New York. Am I right? And it's the same thing on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. That thing would have fallen. Not everybody who wants to align with or glom onto a historical moment was really there. And the flip is true too, Rhonda. There are people who were living lives that were not worthy of praise, who we're not allowed to talk about. Everybody's grandmother marched on the bridge with Martin Luther King, but nobody's grandmother or grandfather was the one that dumped the milkshake on that guy's head in the Birmingham Woolworth. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Because
Absolutely.
as we talk about telling the truth about our history, we start telling the truth about our own personal history. I have to remember not only the times when I stepped up and was brave, Rhonda, but the times I didn't. And I better damn well learn from those. Because if I do not remember the times that I failed, I will not be able to have a comprehensive and durable success. That's my hope. Radical, unrelenting truth-telling, so that we can do the work with distinction and authenticity. I will not waver, Rhonda.
That is a perfect ending. I will not waver.
For some reason, I'm tearing up right now, and I don't know why. I was being all badass, and now I want to cry. It has been such a privilege doing this. I hope everybody knows, and I need to keep it together because, this is being recorded, and I need, look at the professional shirt. You guys can't see the shirt. Look at that. This is me. But yeah, I'm a little misty right now, Rhonda. I hope it's okay.
It's more than okay. We are grateful that you walk with us.
Every day.
And I, for one, and I know your leadership team, and there were many, many who engaged this week, that I am heartened will be walking with you and us for a long time to come. Thank you for spending this weekend with us. This life, this time with us.
Thank you, Rhonda and Laura and every single one of our leadership team. To the women who walked in front of me and cleared the path so that I can walk with you. To the women who are just coming up that we are going to mentor with Hesed heart, so that when you and I are doddering or dead, Rhonda, that the Lace on Race Center for Racial Equity will survive, because the work will not be done in our lifetimes. I know how old you are. You know how old I am. Best case scenario, we got another 40 years. There's still room to move, but we will set up the conditions so that we are making first downs and first downs and first downs. Do you feel me?
I do. Let's do this thing. Let's get some rest and start walking again tomorrow.
It is 7:29. I am going to say goodnight. Thank you for joining us. And this is not the last time we're going to do this. We will continue doing Ask Me Anythings. We will continue doing Lace on Race Lives as long as you want me to. For those of you who are watching this later, please like and subscribe. We are also going to be on all the platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So you'll be able to see us. If you have any questions at all, put them in the comments wherever you want. And if you like what you're seeing, share. If you feel that what we are offering is worth sharing, is worth replicating, make sure other people know about it. I love you all. Good night.